Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. I popped on public 'cause that's one I could get into. So if you want to move us, let me know. Or you'll just do it. So
This is fine. This is fine.
okay. Well. Level 5 hype trains. You're doing a giveaway, you said?
Yeah. I'm setting it up right now.
Do you have you told them what it is, or are you holding that still?
I was just going to do a scope skin.
I like it. Well, I mean, I'm gonna shill it. So
Although at this point, I think I need to do 2 because we also hit the sub goal. So we're going to do 2.
gotcha. This is for the obelisk or something else, or is like they have like a pile of them, or what?
I have a stockpile, so we'll have to. I'm going to give them a choice between a few, I think.
Oh God! Don't overwhelm them with choices, Ash.
Okay, fine. Well, no, because every single time I say build this one, they go, "Oh, well, what about this one?" And then I'm like, "Oh, fine." So
okay, so what if you have like a list that they could view on Discord, and then like the winners get drawn, and you tell them go to Discord and look at the list, and then they can tell you which one they want.
Fair enough.
Okay. Because you do your giveaways through Twitch chat, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to do Raven, Abaddon, or Tempest. Yeah, that looks good.
Raven, Abaddon,
or Tempest.
Tempest. 3
That's
choices.
right.
Okay.
That seems right. Like 3 choices seems like the right amount. You go to 4, you start hitting, choice paralysis.
Right.
So we'll do like a 2-minute giveaway or 2-minute thing. My ability to like formulate sentences has officially been blown out the side of my temple.
Well, that's fine. I'm numb to it, so I'll just I can just rant and babble to chat and while you push buttons and figure things out.
What is that horrible demon talking in the background? Jesus.
Ragnarok's usually around in the mornings when I'm on. Ragnarok, I'm gonna sell him out, is actually pretty decent at marketing. Like, like you'll ping an idea, like, guys, I need a name for something. And like 90% of people will give you terrible ideas. But it's fine, because like what I do is I just take everyone's terrible ideas and I find something that has potential and then go from there. And Ragnarok can throw an idea that doesn't suck. And it makes things a lot easier for me.
That's an extraordinarily valuable thing to have around, especially since naming is such a pain in the butt. Real quick, everybody, exclamation point plunder for your chance to win one of 2 different scope skins, which I will be giving away. One for the hype train and one for hitting my sub goal for the month.
Why is Marcus under the impression you're giving away a Marshall? Or are you sitting in a Marshall somewhere?
I just got a Marshall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think he wants
on the screen. I see it now.
Is it?
Don't you have,
yeah, I guess I'm on it. Or... Yeah, this is Singularity though.
Gotcha. So did you have like a pirate theme once upon a time? I see the plunder command and...
the thing is I plunder the Abyss and you plunder my skin collection.
Okay, I see.
See, that's where it came from. I was trying to pull up skins. We were going to look at the new skins that are coming out or something. No, the clothing. It was the clothing. Well, just real quick, the gold skin that's coming out is going to be a recolor of the biosecurity, but as gold instead of blue. These will only be gotten through logging in. They will apply directly to your character, and CCP has said that it will avoid duplicates. So basically, you'll slowly but surely collect these skins for all of the different ships. There's over 500 of them available.
So they won't have an ISK value, but the only way to ever obtain them is by logging in, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if you log in day 13 and I log in day 13, do we get the same skin, or
no?
Like skin day, it randomizes out of the pool.
So if you look on the daily login campaign now, you can see like there's white rewards, green rewards. Well, there's clear, white, green, blue. I thought there was purple too, but whatever. So these are like the different quality of the crates. So like today I got a plain booster. Tomorrow I would get a white quality skin. So I'd get one of those skins, but probably like a frigate or destroyer or something like that.
Okay, so white is common? Like,
Yes.
are we doing that system? White, common, green,
Yeah.
uncommon, and so forth. Okay.
Yeah.
Blue, rare.
Yeah. And I don't know whether or not this clear is like, yeah. Oh, never mind. So tier 1, white is tier 2, I'm assuming? Yeah. Oh, no. Never mind. White is tier 1, green is tier 2, blue is tier 3. That means purple is tier 4. So yeah, this is the new
Is your
login
giveaway on a
system.
timer, or do you have to manually?
It's technically on a 2-hour timer, so I'm gonna have to end it early for sure.
Gotcha.
And then the clothing. Actually, I think I still have all this stuff on a notepad. Let me just double check. How's things been, man?
Good. I was going to say, I was going to point out the YouTube shift. I was going to ask you. I've noticed, like, you're taking streams and chopping things down by topic instead of like, here's a 2.5-hour video, and I'm like, it's like a Critical Role replay. I'm like, that's never going to happen. Like,
Yeah.
I did it for a while, but now you've been putting out videos that are sub 10 minutes, and I was like, I get to watch them. I actually get to leave comment. Like, I get to interact, and
Yeah, it's it does take a little bit more work, but I try to do that
early because I want to ask, like, has it been quote unquote worth it? Like, are the metrics going through? Blah 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 blah.
It's been going.
It's too early to say. Or
no, it's doing really well.
Okay.
Especially considering the fact that most of those clips came from one 8.5-hour long video, and it basically I milked it for like a week, to be totally honest.
Right,
So
I was around when you made a comment the other day about, like, you're like, I don't think people are aware when they're watching these videos that this all came from one broadcast, and that in some way these videos are connected, like, are like part of the overall conversation. And it doesn't matter because they don't care about the overall conversation. They care about the topic that the link or the title or the image pulled them in for. That's what got them there.
In hindsight, I probably would have liked to have like stitched them together. Like if I started posting originally recorded on this date, especially as like time has gone by and I'm still posting videos talking about the retriever, and it's like a week old now. So it's like, yeah, this was recorded when it was still relevant.
Right.
Where's the Hobo League stuff? Hold on.
How about like, so there's usually like a posting saturation issue on YouTube where even if all of your videos are on topic, if you're cranking out, let's say, you know, put out 7 videos in a 48 hour span, some users apparently get fatigued from notifications like ding, 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 ding. Oh,
right.
You know.
Yeah, that's
so
why
I've been balance that. What's been your approach?
I've been doing 3 a day. I have one at 8 a.m., one at around noon to 1, and then one at 4 to kind of hit the beginning, middle, and end of my window of when people actually come and look.
Them, right? Like,
yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're not having to like manually. Yeah, good.
Yep.
Because like I've always thrown guides up on YouTube. It's only been the last, I don't know, a couple of months that I actually made any effort to try to consistently put up YouTube content, and then like all these bells and whistles and features I never knew existed because they were never relevant to what I was doing. And they're like, I can schedule things. Oh my! Because I always thought like, well, I've got to make a video on Thursday so I can post it manually Friday morning when I wanted to go. Then I started doing research, not research, but going through the first couple of videos, I was like, oh my god, this is convenient. I can just upload the video anytime I please, and I can decide when it publishes. And the meta, and this, keep in mind, this is very, very layman entry level research. You may have gone much deeper into it, but it's either Tuesday, Friday, or Monday, Friday is a sweet spot for if you have like a big video or something you want to really get attention to. So like you've been putting out 3 a day. Has that been 3 every day or 3 on certain days? Or
I've missed it. I mean, I did. So for instance, yesterday, the first video I put out did extremely well. And so I opted to not put out any more videos for the rest of the day. So that way that sat as my last video for a little while. So if a video does really, really well, I probably will give it a little bit extra time. But otherwise, yeah, they just kind of, they roll out. And it's more or less like, to be honest, in this iteration, it's been more like I have a list of all the different videos to choose from. And it's like, whichever one I feel inspired to make a thumbnail for, right? Like, oh yeah, I know what to do for this, and put it up there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, that freeloader Jamestown is here. That means the giveaway should be dealt with soon, because then there's going to be more freeloaders like Jamestown coming in. Hi, James. James likes it. It's fine.
I smell a scope skin.
Yeah, now all the spider webbing is going to go out, and like nerds are going to ping one another, like, hey, get in here, and not really. Even nerds are smart. They're like, no, tell as few people as possible.
It's true.
LQZ is doing like a 5 billion IS giveaway on their Discord that ends tomorrow. So I already have my suspicions, but he's tweeting it out, and like my first thought was like, even nerds are not going to retweet that. Like, I'm hoping this draw is as rigged as Rushlock draws. Oh yeah, like it'll be Ash or an Ash alt that wins this giveaway. If it wants my seal of approval.
So here is the blue version of the hoodie. This is what we're getting for FanFest.
Okay, this is for like ticket owners and attendees or whatever.
Unknown, but it is to celebrate Capsuleer Day. So I think everybody's going to get this. Oh, no,
Okay,
this
yeah,
isn't. This
Capsuleer
isn't
Day.
for FanFest. This is for Capsuleer Day. My bad.
That was gonna say, when I saw the Roman numerals, I thought Capsuleer Day.
And then the
Okay,
elite.
quick tangent. As much as Ash is capable of doing quick tangents, clothing items, are they ever going to be more relevant than they currently are? Like, do you not a like wishful thinking thing, but like a practicality angle? Like, what do you think the over under is on us having uses for our characters in a 3D environment ever again? Because I've always been telling people for years, like, especially the ones who were there before, like, give us back our walking in stations. Oh my guys, it's dead. They beat that thing to death. They threw it out. They've biomassed it. It's gone. Get over it. But then we keep seeing tech being developed, and they want to keep monetizing. And am I? Because I don't do character creation. Like that's the part where I hit random, ship it, get my character out here, and let's go. So I'm more prone to undervalue cosmeticing 2D avatars that I'm never going to look at again. But I imagine there's a whole slew of nerds who are like, nope, I want my pretty princess all dressed up and ready to go. So
yeah, every single time CCP has done any kind of evaluation of metrics, they have shown that the having an avatar, like a character to be attached to first thing is like one of the biggest decisions on retention, right? Like I talked to CCP about this, and I was like, well, you should put the character creation like at the end, right? Like nobody make it so you do the tutorial and then you get to choose like who you want to be part of or how you want to look or whatever. And he said, we actually tried that. They A/B tested that, and it was awful, right? Like the idea of like the first thing you do is make your character is so ingrained in the player's like philosophy that losing that made it so that people didn't have the connection. So, you know, they are always going to be kind of interested in the avatar stuff. That being said, I think that there's every indication that we're going to see more avatar-based support, but maybe not gameplay. They've always kind of fudged their words when it or like hedged their bets when it came to like saying we're actually going to get out of our ship and like roam around somewhere. But the idea of like being able to see your character or see other characters who are talking to you while you're dealing with like missions and that sort of stuff, being able to be more aware of our 3D avatars, I think is something that they're definitely working towards. You've got the new animation systems that they put in. For some reason, they keep like every single time they put out with new shoes, like footwear, I'm like, what? Why? What are you doing this for? Like literally, it's almost impossible.
Because the scope videos make me think about it. Like they're putting tech and resources and assets is what I was trying to think of.
Yeah,
like, there are assets being rigged, and you don't rig assets like that for a 3-minute promotional video, right? Like
right, and it's clearly gotten more advanced, right? Because we have from like 2020, we have like Alton Hovery leaning over and saying like, that's it from the scope or something like that. Like the first thing we got. And then we got a couple like players where they talked and you could see their face like talking or whatever. That was the simplest first stuff we got. But now we've got like Seriatim Foucault like pacing around in the place and like walking outside. And we've got, you know, now we've got foot soldiers charging across, you know, a landing pad. Not only does that show an advancement of their tech, but it shows a desire by CCP to show off that tech, which I find fairly noteworthy. In addition to that, it does not appear to be made in Unreal, which is what we know that the shooter's being built in. So like if it was just like, oh, this is what we're building up for the shooter, you would expect it to be pretty well sophisticated from Go and be built in Unreal. Like, let's just make videos in Unreal. they are obviously, at least in my opinion, making a new engine to show this stuff. Is this new in-game gameplay? Is this just their ability to produce more and regular videos? Is this a new TV series that are being made? I don't know. I just know that they're working on more Avatar tech.
No, it makes sense. And like you seem to agree that the scope videos were like this big, not a nod or a hint. I don't think they're trying to hint to us. They're just utilizing assets that they are. I don't think the assets were made for scope. Does that make any sense?
No, absolutely. It very much feels like showing off, like a tech demo. The moment that here, let me do the giveaway and then I'll give it some examples. So let's go ahead.
If you need my alts names, just DM.
Yeah, Clear Skies 4 is another one of those predictions, right? Like they could be working on new engine systems for stuff like that. One last chance! Exclamation point plunder for your chance to win. You've got like 10 more seconds. I'm going to close it, not reopen it again. And as far as the Clear Skies goes, the guy who makes Clear Skies has a talk at FanFest, so I can expect him to. Sorry, guys, you're a little bit late. I wonder if there's going to be a further advancement of that, or like an announcement involving Clear Skies 4, because I know that production has been ongoing and been pretty successful from all my feelers that I've heard from. Let's pick the first winner in 3, 2, 1. Ebo1337. Literally the last person is like, or one of the last people. Wait, hold on. Yeah, Z-Plunder either snuck in after I closed it or had it already done, but he was the guy that I said it's too late and he just won. So go ahead and wave in chat. Say something, anything. You got like 10 seconds. You were just here. There you are.
There they are.
All right, Z-Fighter. I'll be messaging you, or you can DM me in Twitch or Discord, and I will get you the code as soon as the stream is over. And then next, we're going to pick our second winner in 3, 2, 1. Hammer Forth. You have won the scope skin. If you can respond in time. Hey, all right. So our two winners. Excellent. Great. Thank you guys once again for the hype train, and congratulations on our winners.
Notice how both winners have the same name color as me.
Ooh. It's a conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
The conspiracy of the purple. All right. So real quick, let me go ahead and pull up what I was talking about here. YouTube scope. So the thing that really stuck out at me from all of the scope videos was actually from the Seriatim Foucault one at the very end. Because I'm going to just play it without the audio on, so that way it's not distracting. But I think it's worth watching because this was the very first one that of this last 3 that really shows off their Avatar gameplay, or their Avatar based stuff. So all right, so this is from the 1-year anniversary of Pochfin. And here is Seriatim Foucault talking. Now, the thing that I want to remind people about is, this animation isn't, automatic. Somebody had to, define this animation. So it would be so much simpler if he just stood there and talked. But he's not. He's walking around. He's got a very kind of erratic behavior. He's showing off his kind of like his nature in the way that he moves. They are
I don't know. Chat's saying mocap. I don't think it is mocap. That was gonna be my first statement. Like, do you think it is? But
Even if it was, that's still more because
right.
it has to match. Like, my point is that the full body animations in which he moves around and the camera has to follow them and all that stuff, it's not much, but it's a level of sophistication that you don't do unless you like intentionally want to. The question is, why is he pacing around? Not just, is it mocaps?
Is there a crudeness to this? Because in the first portion, to me, it seemed crude. When his head goes full left, full right, something about that off to me seems off. And I don't know why I think that. I'm not necessarily right. It is something that stands out to me. Like, why is the character? Why is the image of the character slamming his head? It's like he's in a car, you know? Well, left and right.
That's true. Although,
but then later on in the conversation, it's a lot more stable. Like,
it would be interesting to look at like the other conversations or the other people talking, because I always saw it as Foucault's a bit unstable.
What Ragnarok said to me, it seems very PlayStation 2-ish, like over exaggerated, over animated, like.
I agree, but again, I feel like
not to like, oh, this is shit. Let's all go make about it.
But I see like, that's my clue that this is something that they're working on, right? Like if this was just progress thing, like if this was just out the gate like Unreal stuff, then they would have been able to make this kind of stuff like 2 years ago because Unreal already was able to do it. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that like what struck me as odd was this moment at the very end where he walks out the door, like this part right here. Now this shows that they have to have basically the entire room modeled, and then the door opens and you see outside, right? And this is played at the end of this video like it's the big reveal. It shows it at the end. It has a headline down here. I'm telling you, even as a lore guy, this moment means very, very little to me. Right? Like, oh, Seriatim Foucault's actually on the ground and not in a ship. Wow. Like it made me wonder why this was the climax of this video. And it's what made me think that this is really them trying to show off their tech because we've been inside this whole time. Look, we can go from inside to outside. Like that is a big step.
What is that location? Because I'm not the lore person. I don't know what I'm looking at. Like,
this is Port Sorum. As they say. So this is basically just like this is just Amarian building.
And you recognize it immediately without the text? Like you would know.
Those are Amarian buildings, yeah.
Right.
They've actually reused the Amarian building assets every single time there's a city, it's an Amarian city because one time they made a city out of them and they've been using it ever since.
Gotcha.
Like
one more thing about the mocap that chat was saying that I thought was interesting. Keep in mind, I don't have information about that technology or the industry. What I notice is, to me, when I hear mocap, I think fluid mobility, and when I look at this character, I see a puppet on strings.
That's a good point. He's not moving like a person who has been mocapped. He's moving like a person who's being like very kind of
manipulated,
animated.
Yeah.
But see, look, there's an Amarian city here in Eclipse.
Ah, okay.
And it comes from Amar Championship. This is what they originally made it for, which even then, like, this is what's fun. If you go and look at this, the city is actually a whole bunch of other assets smashed together in different ways. Let me pull it up. Yeah. So here's the quote unquote city, and you can see like up here in the top right, that's a sigil. In the back, several of these things, the spires sticking up are actually arcs.
Right.
This is the statue base down here. The statue top over on the left. This is one of the stations over here on the
from our perspective, the player perspective, they're using space assets to populate or give the idea that we're on a celestial body. Yeah, I've even talked to him about it. Like they did this in order to be able to produce this video, right? Like, I mean, like making all new models for a city would be a lot. So they just basically, what's it called when you take like a bunch of assets and you just kit bash? That's what it is. Is that a passive tank sigil? All right. So yeah, it makes sense that they would use a Sorum
structures. But my point is that like it's the climax of the video, and they make it feel like it's a big reveal, but the lore detail of it isn't that big of a reveal. I believe that it's the tech itself that was the reveal. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why I felt about all the Pulse videos. Like,
yeah,
all the stuff going on in the background is very, very busy. And to someone who's maybe newer to Eve, I don't think they give it a second thought. But if you've been around any number of years, it's like, we never see anything like that in game. Like,
right.
And if you're around a little bit longer, then you're like, we used to do that in game. And if you're around even longer, you're like, yeah, that was only a tech demo that crashed and burned.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and so I don't know, man. The thing is that like I
guess potential. Like,
yeah.
I'm not ready to go tell people like, hey guys, Walking Station's back, woo! Because people are ready to like when the first Trig videos came out, right? And Zoro was on the planet. It was like, we're going full WoW MMO, guys, woo! I'm like, no, PA didn't drop that much money in. Like,
yeah, it's hard to
dropped
say.
Just enough money in to piss off Null Bears. That's about it. All right, and like that was the takeaway.
Yeah, it's going to be really like for me. It's really hard because on the one hand, every indication of what's coming in FanFest is like really exciting, but on the other hand, historically when I've tried to like been like, oh well, clearly they're doing this because they're like see all these things. It's setting up for like what I come up with or what we come up with as a collective, as a community is always going to be like way cooler than what they did because they had to think of it months ago and actually like deal with the reality of it. So like I hesitate to try to make actual like tangible predictions about things.
Well, because if you put something reasonable up there, then other people as a mob are going to start outdoing each other. And, by the end of the day, we've got, walking on Planet WoW and EVE Online. Like, then like, why? Then expectation kicks in.
Right.
And when something, does finally come out, it's like, that's so much disappointing compared to what we had. Like, what we had was never reasonable. Like, never think people outside the studio have any reasonable expectations.
So this reminds me of my son, right? So like my son, for dessert, he says, well, can I want either a Nutty Buddy pack or an ice cream bar. And I go, okay, you can have an ice cream bar. And he goes, okay, can I also have a Nutty Buddy pack? And I go, no, you asked for one or the other, and you asked for the Nutty Buddy, and you got the ice cream bar. And he goes, oh, and he gets like super dejected. Like he no longer enjoys the thing that he gets because it's not the more thing that he got in his head, right?
The lesson here, everyone, is that you're a bunch of children and you act like it.
Expectation management is important, is all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm going to take it all the way to the end of the line.
But I mean, at the same time, I'm really excited. I just don't know what exactly about, like what. Like, it looks like they're developing their IP. You've got the comic book. We've got information about the shooter. They've clearly signaled that they want to do more stuff with faction warfare. But it seems to be a little bit more than faction warfare. It looks like it's more... I see like a rework of how we interact with the universe itself, especially the characters within. So like standings, missions, faction warfare, all these sorts of things that like involve our interfacing with the various entities within the universe. That's what I feel that they're targeting. Those are also all extremely old systems that are very much in need of some support.
Rock has a great story of children and what they can do with a pickle jar. He's got twins, and he had his own jar of pickles, and he was doing something. The kids were on their own devices, and they had... I won't tell the story nearly as well as he did, but the long and short of it is he came out, or they came and got him eventually. They came and got him, hey, we had a problem with the pickle jar. He comes out, it's been dumped all over the couch recliner thing. Oh my God, what happened? And they're like, well, when we got pickles, we wanted your pickles, so we started eating them. Then we spilled all over the place. But instead of coming to get you, we decided we should go and eat the pickles because
Oh no!
Like I'm very much taking liberties with the actual narrative, but that was the general gist of like, well, coming to get you wouldn't make any sense then because then we wouldn't be able to eat pickles. So we ate pickles. Then we came and found you. He's like, so it's been sitting for a half hour. We're like, oh, you guys just did this, right? That's how the story went. Something like, you guys just did this? I'm like, oh no, this was like an hour or two ago. We ate the pickles, of course, because like we went through the trouble of getting the pickles, and then like, oh, we're gonna get in trouble for this, so why?
Might as well get what we can until we do. Golly, that sounds like something my son would do. Not the pickles thing, but the rest of it.
Yeah, the logic of
So like he'll come up and be like, "Dad, can I get a towel?" Why?
Yeah. That's not the words you want to hear at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing Rock Story is missing is like as he's cleaning the mess up, like when the kids come over and kicks him over.
Death marks on your pod to show how bad you are. Oh yeah.
I gotta go pick up my son from daycare at top of the hour. So
okay.
If Twitch chat, well, my first thing is if Ash has any for YouTube takes later, wants to get the Rushlock experience for something, think of a topic, and in the meantime, I'll tell Twitch chat, spam your questions for Rushlock, as this is your narrow window to AMA for Rushlock, and then we'll go back to putting Ash on the spot. You don't have to think of something right now. Just
no,
something
I do have a question for you.
Okay.
So like, there's been a lot of like angst in the Eve universe recently.
God, I hope it has something to do with money. Go ahead.
No. But like, you know, the player base is declining and everybody's mad and all that sort of stuff. But like within my echo chamber, I see a lot of people that are like very, very positive about the changes. And I haven't noticed like a big hit in like my numbers or anything like that. Have you like in practice seen a tangible impact on things? Do you see like very much of the rage?
Trends, not just in the directory, but specifically even in my time slot and stuff like that.
Yeah, like your actual like practical stream class gameplay.
So like whenever I go through my dashboard, right, I look at you know the month overall numbers. In fact, I don't have to theoretical this. I can just tell you straight up what happens. So yeah, go ahead and think about that more, and then as I get data up, because why answer a question with feelings when I can just quote it.
There you go.
Let's see. Let's look at January. Oh, how far back do you want to go? 3 months? Like, is that sufficient? Just to get like a recent snapshot, or do you want to go back 6?
If we can go to October, because that was like that was when that was like the end of scarcity announcement, right? Okay. So that was like because November was like the end of the war, so it came up and then it went down after that.
I gotcha. Let's average there. Go forward. November. Okay, cool. So October, November ticked up. December ticked up. January ticked up in viewership and cash. January to February had a significant dip in viewership, but broke even on cash because, I mean, you know, that's what I do. So I would say about from January, February, probably a 20% fall off in viewership.
Wow.
And then February into March, viewership has stayed about the same, money stayed about the same. So yeah, I would say February, March has seen a dip. Now, that's like one data point, right?
Right.
Like,
well, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm asking.
Could every person that streams, you know, have, I don't know, like, I don't know how closely you look at your numbers and such, but like, would you say the same thing or different experience you've had?
I'll have to look. Okay. I haven't actually looked like raw number wise, but so how about like just general vibe? Like, do you see a lot more people like angry or because like I have seen a lot of negativity recently, but then again, I've been out like picking fights and giving like hot takes and stuff. So I was wondering.
And you're also out in prime time. Like
that's true.
This is European prime time, and this is when they're more likely to be worked up. So back-to-back topics, right? It was Doctor Who, followed by Retriever Pack. Am I forgetting anything? Like big in between the two? Well, industry, right? So end of scarcity. I guess that's a big thing, right? Quote unquote, air quotes around end. You have end of scarcity. Then you have Doctor Who, kick them in the balls again. And then you have let's sell them some Retriever Packs, which I think pissed off a different batch of people.
Yes.
Like, I think there's more overlap between I'm angry about Doctor Who and I'm angry about industrial changes / into scarcity. Like, I think into scarcity pissed off anyone who plays Eve to make ISK, period, right? Stop saying it. I won't tear. So, like, that was like a buckshot thing, right? Like, into scarcity, guys, you know, scarcity is over, woo! And then people logged in and like, still boned for all my old ISK making practices because all the old people are thinking in terms of how they used to make ISK. they haven't thought forward about new ways to make ISK. And any new way to make ISK, or any future way is probably a better way of putting it, any going forward way of making ISK for them is always going to be compared to how they used to make ISK.
Right.
In what
yeah,
effort ratio,
they've got anchoring bias.
Ratio, and it's the Thanos thing, right? They can't miss something they never knew existed. So everyone who starts Eve after it goes forward going like, what's the problem? Click, 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 click. So that was your scarcity thing. And then we went into industry changes, and like, oh my God, they just nerfed the bejesus out of the Rourke. They're gonna make so many people angry. Like they've been doing this for what, a year and a half, 2 years now, since Pearl Abyss, right? So what, 2 or 3 years now? Changes that they always wanted to make on some level and couldn't afford to, flat out.
I think that's a really good point.
What's that?
I think that's a solid point. A lot of people like to blame or be like, oh yeah, Pearl Abyss is forcing them to do it because by paying them money. And I really think that it's, oh no, before that they had all of their loans. Not to do
it. It was a hostage situation. Like,
yeah, totally.
They had several bad things happen financially within CCP over the years, and it was like, well, we can't let this ship go under. So let's put all these bad game state things out that put cash dollar carrots on the end of a stick.
Right.
Make these dummies chase them. Excellent. You're all behaving exactly as we expected. Meanwhile, somebody's in the house going, we're so fucked if we leave this game state the way it is for too long, and then too long became years.
Yeah.
And then normalcy sets in. Once normalcy sets in, that becomes expectation and entitlement. So when you finally get to the point where you can roll back changes or make game state changes that matter, then you hit the wall of the people who stuck around or people who just happened to have started back then when things were quote unquote good, but good just means overtuned in that scenario from a user, gamer, player perspective. So
player placating.
They quote unquote fixed it, and then people are like, what the hell is this? This is dog shit. I hate this game. They've ruined the game for me, and they've ruined my life, and blah 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 blah. I've spent years and money and time training up for these things, and I can't do them anymore. They took my toy away. That's what it is. They took my shiny toy away from me, like a big bully, and they gave them a negative emotion. And you're talking about children earlier before. What happens if you give your child a negative emotion and they don't have much experience handling negative emotion? Meltdown.
Yeah.
And that's what you see every time on the subreddit. You see a bunch of people who don't know how to handle that kind of stuff, and then there's poop everywhere. So that was the industry change, and then we had Doctor Who, right? Like they're like, there's nothing else they can do to us, guys. What else could they possibly do to us to make us mad? And then the single greatest event to ever happen in EVE Online happened. Doctor Who, it may even be the greatest event that will ever happen. Like, I don't know if they can top Doctor Who event. That's it. I'm talking to the lore nerd. I'm talking to the lore nerd who would love them some immersion about something that's like canonical and relevant to Eve, and like they will never do anything that will pop the way Doctor Who did. Like now, I'm hyperbolizing it and hyping it up for the sake of the topic, but like that's a hard bar to jump over later. Like not
Why
because
do you think
it was
that
Doctor Who, because of how far they were willing to push. Like they did work on that in terms of not the work that people got mad about, like all this dev time, no, these tools were all developed a long time ago.
Right.
Like, we've had Abyssal tech for a long time. We've had relic hacking can tech for a long time. None of this was new. What they did was they showed they're willing to do something they were never willing to do before. Does that mean I think they're going to do another one of these third-party crossovers soon, later, in the future? Who knows? Like not soon, obviously, but sometime down the line, maybe. But the point is, what you were asking about was the anger and the angst. You want to ruffle some feathers. I would dare say, so like there's frequency and there's I don't know the technical terms of it, but like imagine a bar for measuring things going really spiky high, and then something like goes width for like how long people are angry. People are angry about scarcity for years. People were angry about industry changes for weeks. People reached near max rage with Doctor Who stuff for a very short amount of time. It started and ended within 3 weeks, right? And then gone forever. Like
most of the rage was actually over before the event even started.
Yeah, exactly.
Because once the event started, people were like, actually, this is pretty fun to do.
Click. Oh, I get to play the game now.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been more excited. I don't think I've played more EVE Online off stream than I have during Doctor Who event.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I could not get enough of it.
It wasn't
because I was forced. It was because I had to. Because I genuinely wanted to. I had things to work on. I had things to build filament-wise.
I wasn't done. I'm not done yet. I have to keep going. I'm not done.
I need to bake these filaments so they're ready for me in the morning for stream. Like,
Right.
bang, 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 bang. There was always something going on.
Right.
I need to roll these T1s into T2s into T3s so I can stream my T3 content because that's more interesting than hacking T1s and 2s.
It's not just grinding the same task.
Right. Other people are struggling with T3 hacking content going, but it's so hard. But I'm the idiot who's been hacking nonstop for like 6 years or something stupid. And so I can, click, 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 click. Oh, look at that. 500 million ISK, guys. What's wrong with you? Why are you so bad at this game? And that was an easy event for me to enjoy and participate with. So you have Doctor Who events. So you have a short duration rage, but high volume. And then what was after? What's our current rage? The Ret Pack.
Retribution pack, yeah. Or Retriever pack.
Right, the Retriever pack. So now, we've talked about this for a long, long time. It's the line. They said they wouldn't do this. Like, I say on my stream all the time, if anyone who quotes the whole CCP said they would never sell skill points out of thin air. No. An employee at CCP
that doesn't work there
anymore.
anymore.
Never do something. Even if they did.
I know, yeah, that's
Even
true.
if they did.
Well, the reason why I bring that up, the reason why
administrative and executive and sales decisions, period. A developer can never make you that promise. No community team member can ever make you a promise like that and actually have any meaningful value.
Right. The only thing anybody can say is for now. Conditions.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, skill points is actually a really good example of that because, as I pointed out, and I firmly believe in, like, the problem with skill points wasn't CCP selling them. It's us selling them, right? The problem with skill points was the rise of the skill farm. The fact that it was profitable to do this, and therefore people had literally over 100 Omega accounts in order to farm this stuff. And that has all kinds of bad ramifications on all kinds of different aspects of the game. And so CCP needed to make skill points to be non-profitable, not literally not being able to actually literally make profit, because that, even if you make 1 ISK per account, now it's just the limited number, how many accounts that you can manage, right? But if it's just a subsidy, then it's like, well, then you still have to consider how many accounts that you really want, right? So
I saw this video. I remember your video. It's like the whole they launched it and then, oh crap, skill farms exist. How do we deal with that? And it took a while, but they finally found ways to push.
They tried other things too.
Right direction.
I mean, like, you try to change the price of skill injectors, you try to have sales, like, none of that works. The only thing that works is to directly compete with the other people selling skill points, which would be...
This is in line with what you were saying, or to your original question. And then I responded to the Redline. Redline asked, Doctor Who confirmed that CCP can make new stuff, but chooses not, which made people bitter at the stagnation of the game's PvE content. And we talked about this during the conversation about it. It wasn't new. It was tech that already existed. What was the word you used earlier? Kit bashed it into a new piece of content. That's what happened. Now, I asked what was new in chat, but text never conveys tone, right? So I'm not saying, well, what was new about it? Like, tell me. I could easily be forgetting something that...
Well, I can tell you one thing that was new.
Okay.
Which is those the AoE poppable buffs, because we're seeing them again this weekend.
Yeah. Now, that's a hitbox, right? Is it really new, or is it just a hitbox? Or is it the fact there's a buff debuff? Because we've had buff debuffs in Abyssals, but never tied to what came out first, the Speed Cloud or Doctor Who? Pretty sure Speed Cloud came out first, right?
Speed Cloud came out first, but you know what I think it was, actually? You know what I think the tech that those things were based off of was? You remember those the new Marauder sites in LowSec? And the T3, like the new Explo sites, the SCC keys? Those landmines? Right.
Yeah, okay.
That's all they are. They're buff landmines.
Which is also new PvE content, technically.
Right, but my point is that they're working on this tech of like AoE
point, right?
triggers.
Chat's point was like there was no new, PvE. There's no new PvE for you. Okay, if you're a new player or casual player or however you want to define it, do you think new players need new content? No, because it's already there. New players can do 10-year-old missions and it's fine. Because they haven't been doing it for 10 years. We don't need new PvE content for your first year players. There is more than enough stuff in EVE Online to keep a new player fully engaged, fully distracted, fully focused on what is already in the game. The first year, and I'm talking like somebody who's like, I love this game. Somebody comes in and is like, this game is my new life, and there's no life in it, whether it's an hour a day or 5 hours a day. The number of hours a day doesn't matter. It's the fact they're logging in every day, going click, 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 because they've gotten into it. They're on board. That's
Right.
all you're trying to do with a new user is get them on board. Once they're onboarded, missions 1 through 4, Abyssals 1 through 6, or 0 through 6 now, exploration, PvP, market trade. Like, they don't have to do all of it, but they're going to sample it and sample it and sample it till they find their niche. That's all you do with EVE Online. You're at a buffet, you try some things, you don't like it, you try some things, you do like it, focus on what you do like, and if you do that, you cannot burn out within your first year unless you're dumb and make your goal making ISK. That's the only way you fast track in.
Right. I agree. I think
never make any new content that's accessible to everybody, but there's not this hyper need, this starvation, this stagnation of first year players needing something new to do.
I agree. There's enough content in this game right now. Like we actually. So I'm not saying that we don't need better content. CCP should continue to press the envelope on that kind of thing. But in essence, our biggest issue isn't the lack of content. There's so many different things to do on all different scales and power levels. The problem that we actually have is in the tendons between things, the breadcrumbs that lead people to places. The fact that
the rail system or lack thereof, or
right. Well, it isn't the fact that
rail versus just bumpers, like some kind of hint or
context.
any direction at all.
It's all context. So yeah. Level 1 missions are fine. The actual missions themselves are fine. The fact that you have to do them randomly enough times in order that you almost guarantee to start getting duplicates again before you can move on to level 2.
Do you think Abyssal succeeded the way they wanted? Because when Abyssals got pitched, it was like, here is dynamic PvE so that we can stop worrying about they solved the puzzle. But Abyssals, for the most part, are solved, right? Like, that's why we see T6s.
I mean, I don't think that they... Yeah, it was resistant to it.
Like, are we going to see T7s? Are we going to see T8? Like, is that just something that's going to keep running forward? Is
it really solved, though?
Harder? I don't know. I'm not an missile main. So
no, I don't think that... I wouldn't consider Abyss solved.
I base it off of Twitch chat. Twitch chat comes to me like, well,
yeah, no.
You run this fit, you run this methodology, and you're going to succeed this percentage of time, you're going to fail this percentage of time, because there's like still death spawns or death rooms or whatever. You're just like, whatever. But you're running a 2-bill ship, so you're like, oh my god, I lost 2-bill ship, but I'm also hauling half a bill per run. Like, I'm making up numbers. Like, these are just...
Yeah. You know, I would say that that's only one way to do it.
Well, I mean, it's like, so it's only one way to do it, but it's also, quote unquote, the way to do it because it works. So
well, I mean, that's what...
To the person presenting it, to the person who, like, pitching, right. Saying, you know, is it more ego then? Do you think it's that? It's like, it's more about somebody just feeling like, you know, I'm a sweaty min-maxer that I got over? Not
all the time, but fair chunk of the time.
I would say this Abyss is solved at this point. Like,
I
see too many guides and too many builds and too many, like, it doesn't mean like Signal and I agree, therefore we're right. It's just like that's the narrative that gets pitched to me. Is, right. For the most part, not the exception, but the rule, more often than not, Abyssals are pretty much a solved equation. But they weren't supposed to.
That's fair. Well, I mean, they're resistant to it. It's PvE that I mean, it's 3 years old PvE at this point.
Was it a chew toy though? Was it like, okay, this will keep them busy for a little while? Was that the intention? Because like, right or wrong, my understanding about Abyssal content when it came out was we're trying to get away from static PvE to some extent. Like not right. Like replace it all in the game or whatever, but we want to deliver dynamic PvE to keep you guys busier longer. And did Abyssals achieve what they were set out to do? And who can? The only person that can answer that question is the person who signed off on the initiative. I imagine.
Right. So I think that the Abyss, like people who decide to do the Abyss as their primary engagement for like making ISK versus missions or ratting, the pilot that does the Abyss, I feel, is both more engaged and in the end a more informed pilot and has like practiced more of the like the basic fundamentals of piloting and therefore is more set up for success than just running missions or ratting or
because they're able to react to dynamic situations more.
Right. You got to learn. You got to learn all sorts of different kinds of E-War. You got to learn manual piloting. You've got to deal with
through the lens of a tool.
Right.
You would say it's been a success.
Yes, I think that. But what I find odd about it, if there's anything that's missing, it's that they developed it in a way that seemed like it was designed to be extensible, and then they never extended it. Like they did the T0, T6, but here's the thing. There's only 5 weathers. The weather changes things so much. Like, why haven't we experimented with other weathers? Why don't we have, like...
Why not go wide instead of tall?
Well, right. Why don't we have a weekend? Like, why don't we have weekend-long events? Like, when the you know how we have proving conduits with special conditions on them now? Why don't we have abyssal filaments? Like, why don't we have, like, okay, well, during the Garistus event... well, maybe not the Garistus event because healers are already really good. But you get what I'm saying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could actually introduce...
I think Signal already got us to it. Like, it's a good concept, but making new flavors of Abyssal, even if temporary and testing purposes, is still more quote-unquote effort and time than having different flavor PvP Abyssals, right?
Yes, exactly. But
that's why.
To go back to my point, though, like, I think that EVE Online more needs the tendons between things, right? Like, Abyss is good, but you have to actively, like, pursue and learn about the Abyss and decide to go in it for your own purposes, right?
The game doesn't lead you there, right?
Right, exactly. There's no agent or mission line that says, okay, now we need you to go into the Abyss or something like that. Or, you know what I mean? Like, there's no greater context or reason that brings you there.
To your original question, which was, we're talking about angst and things like that, right? We went through all the phases. We talked about all the different events that caused it. We ended up talking the latest thing about the ret, pack, whatever. Zoom back. What was your intention of asking? Like, you got my perception of it. Which was it just traffic? Was that the only reason you asked, or was there
No. I was more interested. Like I said, it was more of an echo chamber thing, right? Like I was more worried about, or I'm concerned about. I'm always concerned about my own echo chamber and because I know my perceptions and what I've seen in both, like, in interacting with people in Reddit and interacting with people on my stream. You've got another, a big audience as well.
Know
what?
I just realized something that affected it for March. This whole month, I've had Mondays and Wednesdays as takeover streams. So I, on my main channel, have streamed Wreckfest on Mondays and Star Wars: The Old Republic on Wednesdays, which definitely impact my overall viewer numbers, right?
Right.
If as soon as you stream something off your main game, you're going to have fewer viewers. So definitely March trended downward viewership-wise because of that. So I would argue without that, I would have gone January, downward into February, and then upward into March. And then February has 3 fewer days in it, which would cause it seems like only 3 days, but that's a 10th of your month. So that can explain a 10% shift in your average viewership.
That makes sense. But you said the drop-off was before that. So
the drop-off, I want to say, went from January into February. Let me double check.
Yeah. That's what you said.
Yeah. But, like, we went how far back? We went back to October, November. So, like, October what happens? So October into November was an up. November into December was an up. December into January was an up. And then January into February dipped. So the first dip was, I'm not saying it was just because February was a short month, just that there's less data, there's less streaming days for...
That's fair.
But March would have definitely dipped down because of my sellout days.
I do feel like the end of the year last year ended up with a pretty significant disappointment for most of the players. And I think that
was industry, right?
Yeah. And I think that the Doctor Who event actually did prop up things for a little bit, but then after...
Would you argue that these disappointments were justified, though? Like,
absolutely.
Do you think players were justified in their general dissatisfaction or the degree of the satisfaction? Like, how much do you give people a pass on ignorance? I guess is my question.
I think it's expectation management. I think that for 6 months they said that this was going to be the end of scarcity.
Yeah. This goes to communication, right?
Yeah, like, absolutely. Like, this was they were set up to think that this is
like, what the hell is going on?
Don't worry, guys. At the end of the year, it's going to be over. At the end of the year, it's going to be over. Just make it to the end of the year. But they didn't tell people what that was going to mean.
That's not how I feel about it. But what's going on and why is it happening? Like, has there been? It's we're talking about expectation, right? I think I have the unrealistic expectation about CCP leaning into the situation. Like, all right, look, we're about by Pearl Abyss. We're no longer held hostage by angry Null Bears. So we're gonna make these changes that are long overdue. Like, these words haven't been said, have they? Like, they have, but they've been sanitized, I imagine. Like, they're very, very... You have to really be aware of what's going on to make these statements. Like,
yeah,
I could be wrong. I can easily be oblivious. I don't use the subreddit very much. Like, I get a lot of my shit from you guys on Twitch, on YouTube. Like, has there been a public facing the same way where it's like, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, here's the no BS version of it. Not to my knowledge. And it's an unrealistic expectation, in my opinion, for us to have for a company to give a no BS presentation on situations. Does that track at all? Or
I think that the closest that we've gotten is the not the economic, but the ecosystem reports, which have become more sparse over time. And I don't think quite give what maybe, like I said, maybe originally, but like, because I remember at the very beginning they said like these are the problems. They gave themselves like a letter grade and all these different things and like tried to move it up.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
And then the next one they were like, oh, it's moved from a C to a B, and then they kind of stopped.
It was a level of criticalness of an issue, right? It was like a report card of like, how effed are all these things?
Yep, these are the problems that we've identified. These are the things that we're thinking about to do those. And if you go back and look at those, you can, like, a lot of the things that everybody got blindsided by tracks all the way back to those very first kind of announcements. But yeah, I don't think that it's hard to say, because like on the one hand, CCP has been notoriously bad at communicating things forever. Like that's always been like their biggest weakness.
Okay, because I might have the same rose-tinted glasses that some other people do, where it's like, oh, once upon a time, they had a very forward-leaning community team that, for whatever reason, was afforded pretty large leeway in what they could say publicly.
I've always said that CCP's number one issue is their communication.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
I've said that for years.
So if nothing else, it's consistent. Like, why do you have expectations if they've never been exceeded before in that regard? Now, when you say, lack of communication or poor communication, my flavor of that is like, mine's biased, right? Like I want no bullshit. I want straight shooting. I want very blunt communication, because that's me. And so I have a very, very biased lens to look through that for. Do you have that lens as well? Or do you think you have a reasonable expectation of communication that is not being met in some regard?
I feel like, for the most part, they try to explain things in very technical ways without actually giving people a good context for things. Like, for instance, an example that I've been looking at this week is the new boosters that are coming with the login rewards, right?
Yeah.
They just list them as just a giant list of different bonuses. And it took us a little while to sort out that
is this
these
good?
were...
Is this bad? I don't know, because my head hurts.
Well, no, they're racially based, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Amar, like Amar is information and armor. And so you can see these like directly correspond the nature of these different races coming into their boosters. But they never said that. They just said there are these 4 new boosters that do these different things, and now, it's up to you to sort out these things.
There's usually a fall off internally, right? Like the person publishing patch notes or these types of announcements are not the people making the changes. So they present the data that they're given. They might do some editing on the formatting if they feel comfortable. But for the most part, they're just pushing ahead with what they got put on their desk, right? Like, so
well, I'm just using that as an example. But my point is that CCP will often do something without actually either telling everybody about it or telling everybody like how to understand it, right?
How to parse it.
Like, like with waste and all of the mining buffs, right? Like or even the industry buffs, they didn't like give people the overall narrative of what's happening, and therefore the player base just put in their own narrative.
Right. Yeah, with a lack of a narrative, don't worry, the community will put one in there for you.
Exactly.
So with the waste mechanic, like, the waste mechanic to me was very transparent. It was extremely obvious. This is meant as an urgency tool. They wanted people, this is in the original form, they wanted people to mine, see waste, and go, how do I get rid of that? And then go Omega and train skills and progress and go. They wanted you to accelerate past the problem. Well, how do you accelerate in EVE? Pay cash. Typically. I mean, yes, you can grind, but let's be reasonable. Like that, to me, it seemed clear as day. This is an obvious because it's me speaking and thinking. To me, it seemed like a clear-cut monetization ramp meant to be a monetization accelerator, get people into spending money. To me, it was never a game development thing or it wasn't that. It was somewhere in the marketing sales team or someone in the more accurately the executive side saying, hey, we want to reach these goals. How are we going to do it? Because like here's like a big peek behind the curtain that I think a lot of users will never see for themselves. without access to devs and like this is me pulling off knowledge from other studios I've discussed things with. Things get put on developers' desks that they aren't personally interested in,
Right.
but they're given an overall marching order. We need you to get from point A to point B. Your job is to get there with the tools that you already have, because we're not authorizing, or we are authorizing, whatever the case may be, X amount of development time and resources or blah, 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 blah. But the mission objective is we want to be able to create urgency within an insert piece of content. For here, it was mining, creating a sense of urgency. Oh no, waste. They elicit a negative emotion out of the user. How do you solve it? Pay money. It's easy.
Well, except for the solution to waste is exactly the opposite, though. Right? Like the better, faster stuff that requires more skill generates more waste.
Well, and that's when you start going into flavors of crystals, right?
Well, but that's my point. Like the higher skill point demanding crystals, the higher skill point demanding items and tools all generate more waste.
But you get more earnings out of it too, right? Like you get more keep, but you also generate more waste.
Absolutely. But I don't know. I see this. I hear this all the time where it's like
slow time thing. There was less waste, but you were slower, or you're faster with more waste,
right?
Or you're C-type.
But that makes total sense to me though, right? Like if you're being slow and meticulous, then you're less wasteful. If you are just hoovering massive amounts, then you probably are not being as efficient.
Right. Do you think it was strictly a game design attempt though? I can't imagine an urgency based mechanic not being influenced by monetization.
What do you mean by an urgency based mechanic?
Waste. Like when someone sees a number pop up that isn't a positive number going into their wallet or going into their oral,
a driver that'll make them go
negative. Yeah, a driver that makes them go, ugh,
how do I fix
feel
this?
Bad? How do I stop feeling bad? Well, you gotta get rid of that number. Okay, how do I get rid of that number? It's like it's what Plex is. Like it's what mobile game premium currency is. You have to convert the units that you're dealing with to desensitize and separate that from their thinking in terms of dollars and cents. They're thinking in terms of Plex and Omega and injectors and things like that.
Yeah. What I've seen is that CCP is coming out with changes to older features in order to set them up how they probably should have always been, but without any necessary consideration as to the transition between or how it feels about it, right? Like, because when you make a change, it is a change, which means everybody in the current world is going to evaluate it based on the way it was, right? So all of the people that used to mine without waste is going to look at this as like, what the fuck? Yep. But a new player...
We talked about earlier with the whole perspective of like the way it used to be compared to the way it is now, and
right.
The ones who don't know any better.
Right. So a new player, though, isn't going to process that at all. They're just going to process it as the thing that's given to them, right? Not just with waste, but there's other things too. Industry change is a good example. So what I've seen is that there are a lot of different aspects of this game that lacked texture, or at least lacked compelling gameplay. So one of those things that was broken was mining crystals. Because like whether or not you use mining crystals, whether or not you use T2 lasers, like that was a thing, but it was always kind of wonky, right? Like whether, certain ores that they were coming out with didn't have crystals. So now it's not even worth it to use T2 lasers or, mining lasers. And it just, it didn't succeed in creating an interesting choice there. But waste creates an interesting choice. Do you want it to be slower and end up with more resources in the end? Or do you want to hoover it really, really quick, right? So like in nullsec, you see people using the slower crystals and getting through it because they need every single ounce of moon goo they possibly can. In the wormhole, we're using the fastest lasers that we can because we need to get this shit done. You know what I'm saying? Like it makes it so that there's an interesting choice there when there wasn't an interesting choice before. The same as like with battleships.
What is our situation? What does our situation demand of us? Like, and then you use the tool that sits
exactly. Different circumstances now require different answers, and I think that that's far better of a situation. Now, as far as like CCP failing to communicate, it should not have been named waste. They should have been changed it to the other way around, where like it destroyed like it they don't double the ore, but if it procs, then you manage to find a vein, and so you get a bunch of resources without taking any out of the rock.
Which I would argue that might be what I'm talking about, the monetization. Do you think giving a double positive has as much of a push mechanic psychologically as giving a single negative and a single positive?
I think that it all depends on how you want to sell it.
Here. I'm looking for predatory,
Sure.
I'm not saying that's the way it is. Like, I'm just trying to push a narrative and see like what kind of thoughts that makes people have. Like,
so I think that if you wanted to see that, then you would see like, in your mining ledger, showing what you could have gotten if you had a different thing. That is a very, like, if you go to like a free-to-play app, that's what they'll do. They'll be like, here's the end of the month. Here's all the things that you could have gotten. Now you can pay money to get it now, or something like that.
We have that too. We have that email going.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. The email is probably the best example of that.
Yeah.
But like, I don't see very, like, you don't see like, you did this, get more, check out this thing. I haven't quite seen that yet. Right. We're circling the drain for sure.
Okay, give me one more controversial topic, because I got to go in 5 or 10. And while you think of a topic, I want to point out that my favorite communication this year so far was when Fozzie was on here. It might have been this year, it might have been late last year. Fozzie was on your channel, and you'd made a comment, just making a joke about, I'll see you guys next time you piss everyone off. And Fozzie was like, we'll see you soon. Like, yeah. I'm still laughing about that. Like, I want that as a ringtone or something, or I want a Fozzie bobblehead on my desk, and like when you bobble him, that's what he says. Like, that was the most like honest, like sincere, real talk. Like, that's what I'm looking for, I guess. And we're talking about unrealistic expectations. That is my unrealistic expectation. I want that face that I guess I want myself doing it, right? Like, I'm casting. I'm sitting there going, I want someone who can be just as much of a caustic, corrosive asshole as I am, dropping one-liners like that and being like, you know what, fuck it. I want Ricky Gervais, delivering the patch notes and the divine design philosophies and being like, banging out the zingers and being like, fuck it. It is what it is. That's where we are.
So you miss CCP Falcon is pretty much what I've heard.
Is it? I don't know. I don't know Falcon's personality.
Yeah, Falcon was much. He was he's the guy who promised no skill points for sale, right? Like he was a community manager that came from the community and was the guy who was more than willing to get into the dirt with Redditors if necessary.
Gotcha. All right,
call somebody an idiot.
Do you have a hot take topic to send me off with? I know. I realize it's putting you on the spot. So I'm looking at Twitch chat too. Like, Twitch chat, if you got a hot take, controversial topic in the Eve, throw it at us now. We're looking for them. So
the thing, I guess, what I will say is that what I find interesting, or what I find hopeful, I guess. So during a few of the latest like interviews or whatever that CCP Rotati and others have given, the thing is that like, while a lot of people are angry that scarcity, quote unquote, isn't over, what I find very exciting is that they said that this is the year that they're coming out with new content, right? That like they couldn't really come out with that much more when it comes to PvE over the last couple of years because it's scarcity, right? Like they're in the process of trying to bleed
they're trying to close faucets, not create new ones.
Right, yeah, exactly. But now that process is over, they can now replace the pieces with other things.
So you think Into Scarcity was meant unintentionally as more of like an internal barometer for like, okay, now our efforts can be put into things that...
Oh no, scarcity's over. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, so when I hear Into Scarcity, I hear like it's the end of the sticks. There's no more sticks are coming, right? Like,
I mean, possibly.
Right? Yeah.
I didn't hear that either. I just saw that like, so scarcity. So here's the thing. The word scarcity has to do with the amount of stuff that's available to be found, right? Like,
doesn't that seem pedantic though? Like we're looking at the definitions of words. And,
no, but
like, are we looking at like their intended message? Like, what was the intended message? Because they knew everyone's angry about scarcity. So what message they put out? All right, guys, 6 months out, here's the end of scarcity. Okay, good. 6 months later, all right, scarcity's over. Okay, by whose definition? Well, we're CCP, so we say it's over. Okay, so where's the carrots?
My point is that the stuff is there now. It's just whether or not we can extract it as well, or whether or not we have as good,
How many accounts do you need to activate to get it?
Well, sure,
At the
but
pace
I mean,
we're
like,
getting it before, which is what people get all, the pre-existing players get angry about.
right. So the other thing I like to point out is that, I had this a while ago where somebody's like, it's not the end of scarcity. It's like, look, man, you can argue it all you want, but I hate to break it to you, it is.
Well, people had an unrealistic expectation of end of scarcity if they thought they were going to go pre-scarcity earning levels.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, like, the entire point was that it was never going to go back to pre-scarcity levels. That's what got us sick in the first place.
What a lot of people thought.
I know.
They were fools.
I know.
A lot of people thought that.
I asked people what would be the end of scarcity.
I don't know how big blocks, manage people. Did big blocks put their people under that impression? Guys, we don't need you quitting the game. So keep in mind, scarcity will end. We'll go back to the milk and honey soon. Stick around. Don't leave Discord. Don't leave whatever, TS, whatever we're using, blah, 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 blah. Get ready for those pings. And they're like, all right, we're sending out the pings that scarcity is over. Like, were they, this could be a fictitious, I'm not saying this ever happened because I don't know. But do you, is this just mob mentality stupidity?
I do think that there is
a reason that people had this weird idea in their head that, post-scarcity meant pre-scarcity earning levels.
Right. So, I do think that there's a fair chunk of like leadership because like a lot of the things that have been impacted are the big complicated things, right? Like capitals and moon mining. And like, these are the things that are dealt with on an administrative level. And it does feel a little bit like high ups are getting lower like grunts riled up about things and just like sending them out, regardless of whether or not it has to do with like their world. It's like, they're being given the talking points and being sent out, even though the things that they're dealing with are on an echelon that's usually above them, if that makes sense. But it is absolutely true that CCP, I mean, the problem is that when we go through that much pain and the entire time, and for a while, they suggest that it will be over, but not actually define what that was going to mean early. Again, people are just going to fill in the gap, right? Well, the end of scarcity means going back to the way it was. That CCP never said that, but with an absence of clarity, players got to say it, and then was never contested, and then that became the truth.
Yeah, that's kind of the like backbone of all the communication lack thereof. Clarity, a lack of clarity, if not an attempt at communication. And sometimes, like, could they have told what would have been CCP's benefit in telling people 6 months out, guys, we're not going back to pre-scarcity or income levels? Would there have been a benefit, or would that have just been thrown up the flagpole as a reason to unsub? Like,
I think that that what they could have done, and now this is obviously now we're the old guys in the back of the theater, like throwing popcorn. But what I would say is, at the very beginning, they suggested like there's going to be scarcity, redistribution, dynamic redistribution, and what they all meant, which, by the way, a lot of people still don't know, like, understand the difference between distribution and dynamic distribution. But that's my point. It's that, like, these things were mentioned 2 years ago in some dev blog.
Too technically, like,
what?
What is it? You said also, like, a lot of their explanations come out too technical. Like,
right.
This is too big of a piece of food for little F1 monkey to chew. Like, dumb it down. Come on.
The EVE player basis memory is about 4 to 6 months at most, right? So the thing that got detailed in a dev blog 2.5 years ago is not relevant, not in context to whatever's happening now. So it'd be actually pretty handy for them. Like, I loved the letter grade thing, and I don't like the fact that they dropped it, not because it's, actually useful, but it, like, anything to reinforce that this is part of a bigger thing and to help people understand where they are in context to the bigger picture, because that is a huge, it's a huge problem. It's hard to do, but if you can get people to kind of understand where they're going and where they're at on the map, everybody keeps talking about like not having a roadmap. And I don't think that I think that not having a roadmap is relatively good for details.
Okay. But if they go big picture on it, then people still take it as promises, right? Like, people aren't that smart. Like,
right, but it allows them enough time to set up enough things. Like,
what about a report card? Was a report card a good roadmap? Like,
I
There
think
are some
the
things we've
report card
identified.
was pretty good, but like even when they said like when they talk about we're going to end scarcity ends at the end of the year, be like, well, 2 years ago the economy was out of control, so we started this whole process, but we're going to be wrapping up this process at the end of the year. It will not go back to the way it was, but there will be more resources available. We will see how it works from there, and we'll continue to monitor from there, right? Like, that isn't what they said. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think
fair,
that...
though, people couldn't hear the whole, look, the economy's not in a good place. Like,
right.
People couldn't have heard that. Because from their user perspective, I'm making money hand over fist. What do they mean? This isn't good. This isn't healthy or whatever. Like,
the most painful thing that I run into is people who are, when I'm arguing that Titans are out of control or supercarriers are out of control or Titans shouldn't be like the better ship than everything else, but
everyone
like
else
should have
says
its own
Titans
niche.
and Capitals are out of control. Mine are just fine.
Well, like people, I talk to people that joined since 2016, right? Like how I'm telling them that Titans are something totally different than what they ever have experienced, right? Like, no, you're wrong. It actually isn't that way. And it never was supposed to be. Like, that is just a really, really hard thing to chew on for people.
It's a hard hill
like,
to push up.
I legitimately feel bad for people who came in with an understanding that the prosperity before scarcity was just the norm.
Because you're telling them something theoretical and they're pointing at something actual and going, you're nuts, like...
Right. And I'm like, yeah, but it was making
everyone
us
should
sick.
have a Titan ult. I'm looking over here and everyone has a Titan ult.
Right. And if you say like, well, but it was like pretty soon you're now the out of touch old guy that's saying like, but it was better back in my day. But like, that's the thing is that it's hard to show people that we were sick before. But the other part of it is that like,
you feel good. It's hard to tell someone they're sick when you feel good. Like, I feel great.
Yeah. It's like my son. Going back to my son again, like every day, like he doesn't want to eat his vegetables. He doesn't want to eat, but he just wants to eat candy. And it doesn't matter how many times I explain to him that eating only candy is going to make him sick, unless like he eats the candy and immediately vomits. Like he's not going to get that.
What do you know? You're old.
Yeah. But I mean, like it is very true that like this could very well just fail, right? Like I mean. We could not survive this process. Chemo could kill us. But the thing is that so much right now is riding on FanFest. I really wish that more people would just like shut up and keep their eyes on that. Not because I necessarily think that that it's bad that we're complaining about all the different things that we're complaining about, like Blackout and the retrievers and all that kind of stuff. These are important things to go into, but especially when we're talking about a lack of content, lack of new stuff or whatever, like CCP has clearly said, A, there's new stuff coming this year, and B, they're going to talk about it at FanFest. So the expectation that it would be like more before that seems kind of odd. We normally have a lull period where everybody's like, oh, well, nothing's really happened for a while, the couple months leading up to FanFest anyways. But I really think that right now is an important time for us to say simply, like, look at CCP and be like, fine. All right. We've survived this. This is your opportunity to show us it was all worth it. I think that everybody expected that in December.
Why is FanFest going to be anything other than here's presentations on things that are coming out later?
Because for months they've been wanting to talk about what's going to happen next, and they've been not able to. So we have months of backed up reveals to show.
But do you think any of that stuff's going to actually hit live within 3 to 6 months?
Yes.
Okay. That's my like take from it. Is like anything you see it talked about at FanFest is going to be like late third, not even until fourth quarter, if it's ready.
No, they have stuff that's pretty much pretty close to poised to go.
Okay.
I think. So, they said that there's going to be like new sites and new content and stuff like that, especially in nullsec and whatnot. We may see some of the stuff like over the course of months or whatever afterwards, but like they've been working on this tech for months or even up to a couple of years now. Quietly, I've been hitting, increasingly as time goes on, I've been hitting more and more brick walls where it's like they want to talk about something, but they can't. And FanFest is the time to reveal those kinds of things. I think that we have seen a trend in gaming over the last, half a decade or so, where we've gone from like an announcement months before the thing to, like, hey, next week we're coming out with this Hearthstone expansion, like at the conference, because the problem is that we actually get into like news fatigue, right? If they announce something in FanFest and it doesn't come out for like 2 or 3 months, then it can actually get worn out. What?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like that's how the new attention span cycle works. Is like we're talking about these things we're going to be working on. All right. Well, if it's not out in 2 to 4 weeks, no one's going to care. Well,
yeah, it's always better if you can be like, you can go log in right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for having me. I got to get my guy. He's at daycare ready to be picked up. So, but
thank you for dropping by, man. This has been great.
Anytime.
All right.
Hey, at your dashboard, how long ago was that hype train? What time was that?
Oh boy, I don't know.
You'll say in your dashboard alerts like been followed, been sub to, blah 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 blah, and one of the most recent things other than follows would have been hype train happened X number of minutes ago. This is very important.
2 hours.
That was 2 hours ago?
Wait, I think so. It says.
Okay, I mean, it could have been. I mean, that would have been.
I've been live for 2.5 hours, or 2 hours and 45 minutes. I think that's about right.
Well, there's a good easy way to test this. So I need 3 professional shills in Twitch chat to type cheer 100, gift 1 sub. If you're already subscribed, all you have to do is refresh the stream. You won't get any ads, and see if your resub notification's available. You hit that button, and when 3 of you do that, we'll find out for sure. We don't need 3. We need 2 people to type cheer 100, gift a sub, drop a prime, or hit the resub button. Then a little timer clock will pop up on top of Twitch chat, and we'll know if the hype train's in station. So make sure Ash does his hype train homework. Some of you out there are professional authorized shill officers, and I'm not always around, so make sure you keep Ash on task. But thank you again for having me here, and I'll see some of you in about 12 hours.
I appreciate it, man. Have a good one. Make sure to follow. Hey, there's 100 minutes. Oh God.
Oh, 1 down, 1 to go. Where's my other one?
There's the second one. Oh no, wait, time out.
Did you bait us? Did you bait us?
I don't see it.
It's not there.
It's not there.
Did you change your cooldown on your hype trains?
I don't think so.
You wouldn't know, guys. Someone sort Ash out. 1 hour cooldowns.
Oh my god.
Because I know you changed. Well, I don't know that. I suspect you changed your settings because they're not on the lowest ones possible. So maybe the ones are not right either. Ash has homework. Look at hype train settings in his account settings later, and goodbye forever. I'll see you guys later.
All right, have a good one. Thank you.